Roxanna Shirazi. Her book is The Last Living Slut, born in Iran, bred backstage, and she's in the studio.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
How are you? I'm good, thank you.
All right, great to have you here.
Thank you very much.
I'll tell you, you're ballsy. I mean, you call yourself a slut. That's pretty badass.
Well, if you read the introduction, it's kind of in the good sense of the word.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to explain.
Is there a bad sense?
Well, no, because it's in such a negative sense, you know.
Right.
And I'm kind of saying, why is it negative to have sex, basically? Why does it make you a bad human being?
It doesn't at all. It makes you a fantastic human being.
Yeah.
So you've had a great number of sexual partners.
I would say so, men and women, yeah.
Oh, and now we're even having more of a conversation. Okay. So more men or more women?
I'd say more men, definitely.
Okay. Are we in triple digits or no?
No, God, no.
No, that's
Did you
okay.
really?
Well, that's you're not much of a slut then. No,
I wish.
Just dozens, huh? That's it.
I'm very romantic. I fall in love very easily. I think that's my problem. So I get all mushy and romantic, and I really want to be all lovey-dovey.
All right,
So,
interesting. So now you came over from Iran when you were 10 years old.
Yeah, I was nearly 11. Yeah.
Nearly 11. And where did you go? You went to London, or?
I was sent to England and then to Manchester, which is
Manchester.
the north of. And so I lived in the ghetto, you know, like a really bad area. So I went from a war to like the ghetto war thing, you know.
Well, that's interesting.
It was quite funny.
So as a kid growing up in Iran, though, you didn't live in a very religious atmosphere, did you? Because that was before the revolution.
Well,
Do I have that right?
Yeah, during the revolution, you know, it was kind of coming up to the revolution. There was a lot of chaos and things going on. And then I was there when the revolution happened. I remember it quite clearly. And then the war started. And everything escalated. I mean, the climate of fear, you know, escalated of like everything forbidden. Everything was deemed counter-revolutionary symbols. So, you know, ties were kind of forbidden, dancing, wearing makeup, nail polish. It all happened in a very short space of time. So, and I remember all of that, and then the war happened. So, yeah.
And you guys were not on the side of the Ayatollahs, so you had to scat. You had to get out of there.
No. We were. My parents were very sort of. They were anti-Shah because all my family were in prison during the Shah's times.
Oh wow! Okay, you got street cred there too.
Yeah, they were very left-wing. So they were sort of anti-Shah. They were like, because the Shah was like, obviously they're saying taking from the poor and making the rich richer. So basically they were pro-people. They were quite left-wing. So but they wanted a better change. They didn't expect to become worse with with Khomeini coming into power.
Yeah.
So basically they were in danger as well with Khomeini coming. So we all escaped.
Right.
I had family who escaped via horseback to Turkey and then back to the mountains.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, Turkey coming to the rescue again.
Yeah, there you go, you see.
Well, and that's a badass story, riding on horseback into Turkey. Okay, so you get to London, and then when do you, to use your word, when do you become a slut?
I was quite sexual as a child, anyway. I was quite a rebel. I didn't like authority, so I kind of went against, had a kind of my own little secret life. But I didn't lose my virginity until I was 24 years old.
Oh, really? 22? What kind of slut is this?
I was quite into like finding someone, settling down, them being my husband, and and I wanted to lose my virginity to the one,
Right.
So I hadn't even kissed a boy until I was 24 years old.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Well, no wonder when you broke out quite seriously.
I know, I was like, I've got to make up for all these dorky, nerdy years. I've been sitting at home reading my books and writing my poetry, because I was quite a shy, nerdy, like a moustached refugee girl, sitting in my room and then reading every book I could devour. And then after 24, I was like, I went wild.
Tell me about your first sexual experience.
Oh, it was with the Greek boy.
Okay, all right, that's all right. We'll forgive you. That's all right.
I know, right? Exactly.
Okay, no.
It wasn't nice, First time is never the most pleasant and happy time, is it? So it was a bit uncomfortable, a bit painful, and it's just a bit awkward. He didn't know that I was a virgin.
Right.
And he was quite like a bad boy. He was like he just didn't even think to be quite sort of considerate in any way. So it wasn't nice. But then after that, I kind of discovered my sexuality a bit more.
Yeah, when did you start enjoying it? Where you thought, look, you know what? Let me get serious about this because this thing's kind of fun.
But the thing is that I had my first orgasm when I was 11, right? So so I had sort of my first proper orgasm when I was 13. So I was always in touch with my body, and
What's the difference between an orgasm and a proper? Is it a British thing?
No, it was like
oh,
I don't know if I
quite
can
right,
say it
done
on
right,
air. It was like female ejaculation. So it was kind of that, and
Don't it? So you do that, huh?
Yeah, so it was like, wow, what is this my body is doing to me? I was quite like, wow, I feel so good and it's just great. And I was quite young, so I was always in touch with my sexuality and my feelings. But, you know, throughout my years, I never kind of considered, you know, I slept with girls before guys. So, you know, I had experiences with girls at high school, you know.
Oh, in high school you're getting down with girls. That's
yeah, in high school I got it on with girls and I kind of...
And were they doing getting you with a female ejaculation thing going on?
Yeah, we had, I mean, we were both of us, or whoever, you know, I was with as a girl, we were both quite young and inexperienced. So we weren't thinking we should do this to do this. We just went with the flow, you know. We just was like, whatever makes us happy. So it was kind of a nice, innocent experimentation, you know, before guys. And then with guys, and it was different, you know, I fell in love and it was like more like I wanted relationships, I wanted to settle down and things like that.
Okay, now let's get to the part, we haven't gotten to the part where you're going to start to have sex with like famous people. Okay?
Right.
And rock and rollers.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
So how did that happen? Who's the first rock and roll guy you slept with?
It happened by coincidence. I mean, I was always into Guns N' Roses. When I was 13, when I did have my proper orgasm, it was to looking at Axl Rose on TV. And
oh, really?
He really like did it for me. I was like, this guy, he is it, you know. Man.
Oh, wow.
So I was into that. But my first kind of rock star was coincidental. I was staying with a friend, and he managed the band Stereophonics, or a very famous British band. And basically, it was like experience with him. He was like a drummer, and he was very wild. He had this big bulky arm with tattoos, and he was just crazy. And I was like, musicians might be very fun. I'm going to go and try this. So I went to like, followed bands, went backstage, hung out, went on tour with bands, and you know.
So how do you sleep with a rock star? Do you just go up and be like, hey, cool, let's get it on, and they're like, yeah, I'm in?
Well, no. I mean, initially I didn't know them, so I'd go backstage and sort of make myself go backstage and hang out, and things would happen. But as I got to know them, we swapped numbers, and then they would ask me to go on tour, and then we'd like, you know, be friends, and then we'd just hang out and things would happen. So, you know, you'd have to get to know them first, and then things would happen. It depends how enthusiastic you are. If you're quite wild, and if you want, you know, I always saw rock and roll as a very like utopian playground, very wild, sort of free-spirited world. So I was like, I was very like happy to go and be wild. So I didn't have any inhibitions, and I think that's why probably they found me appealing in that way. So
yeah, I bet. So, but how wild were you? I mean, did you like walk backstage? Hi, how you doing? I'm Roxanna, and I'm the last living slut. Let's go to work?
No, it was some bands I'd go back to the security doors and I'd go, I'm here for the band. And the security would be like, well, who the hell are you? And I'd be like, I'm the band's entertainment. And I'd be like,
oh, so already that's an interesting
all right,
code
then,
word.
we'll go up. And I'd be quite bullshit and quite like, oh, let me in, you know. And, you know, sometimes that happens. Sometimes I'd go to a gig and just try and just talk to them, like sort of talk to them when they're on stage and whatever. And then they would just come and get me and go backstage and would hang out. Whatever.
And I'm just curious about details because you're very honest in the book, so it's cool. And by the way, there's also naked pictures in the book, just so you know. And it's called The Last Living Slut, Born in Iran, Bred Backstage.
Backstage, yeah.
So you're backstage. How do you pick which guy, or do they pick you?
No. I do as I want to do. It's kind of like I want you, and you know, and if not very good, if they're boring, I'd be like, go and find me another rock star. Because, you know, it's like, you know, I'm there to have fun. I'm there to be happy. And if I'm not happy, if I'm not having fun, or if I feel this is boring, I will leave.
Sure. So, but I've always been curious about this. Is there like a sex room back there, or or like you just hang out for a little bit, drink, and then you go back to his hotel room?
Yeah, it depends. Some bands, they're quite wild and crazy, and then backstage is like debauchery. There's a lot of things going on with a lot of girls and guys all getting it on. Some bands, you know, they're more low key, so kind of like they want to just go back and be one-on-one. They want like a girlfriend experience. So a lot of bands are away from home for long periods of time, and they want someone to keep them company, make them sandwiches, and a nice cup of tea, you know, and cuddle them, you know.
But
and it's all about the conversation and keeping them. So it's like that. It sort of depends, you know, on the band, really.
A nice cup of tea and a proper orgasm.
That's it.
Okay, so now, did you ever partake in the debauchery?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's always been lots of bands who are quite wild and crazy, and then a lot of girls would come up to me and say, can I come with you with the band? And I'd sort of see if they were hot, and then I would say, you know, I think, yeah, you and you and you, well, let's
So
go.
then you started arranging girls?
Yeah, if I was attracted to them, yeah, they could come, yeah.
Oh, that's cool, that's cool. And did you ever hook up with the girls?
Yeah, totally.
Oh, so you're seducing the girls while you're letting
I was using them. I was like, I'll let you come backstage if you're good, if you're nice to me.
Oh, that's fantastic. I knew we
Feel a
were going
bit
to have fun
bad.
tonight. I knew it. Okay, and did you made them do stuff to you and stuff?
No, I didn't make them. I don't like,
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
make it. But I was like, hey, let's hang out, and I'd be like, getting it on with them and see how they took it, And then sometimes it was fun and whatever. So
And what percentage of the girls could you seduce, and what percentage were like, no, I'm just not into it?
Well, most of them were into it because I think most girls who go and see a rock band, they want to experience the wild, crazy ride and be like, engage in the whole debauch kind of experience. And then some of them come in and with the band at the hotel or whatever, and they're like, you know what, this is not for me. And I always tell them, just don't do anything you don't want to do. Respect your body and whatever, and just leave. If you feel, don't give in to peer pressure.
Yeah,
if you
no
feel
question.
you have to this to be cool and rock and roll, don't do it because it makes you happy and you have fun.
I love that empowered sense you're giving out. No question. So now let's talk about the guys you slept with. Okay, did you ever wind up getting with any of the Guns N' Roses guys?
Yeah. Well, if you read the book.
No, I know, but they don't know the book, so you tell.
Well, yeah, some ex-members and some present members. So yeah.
Did you ever get Axl Rose?
No, but he did sign my flower, and I was going to get it tattooed. It was. I met him. He seemed pretty normal and nice, as far as I can see. But yeah, no, I never hooked up with him. No.
But when you slept with the Guns N' Roses guys, were you like, booyakasha, like? But like.
What would you do?
No, that's not it. Okay, anyway, I've arrived. Okay, did you walk out thinking yes?
No. Do you know when I felt I've arrived? It was when I was standing side stage at Guns N' Roses because I love their music. So I was like, wow, this was great to be looking out the audience, and you're on the sidelines. It was, I've met all members of Guns N' Roses, past and present, and some of them don't have the charisma or the sexuality, and they could be the most famous member of the band. And some of them who are not the most famous, lesser known member, they've got the most sexual aura and powerful charisma. So I realized early on that it wasn't about how famous somebody is. I've met Tommy Lee, but I don't find him attractive. I just don't think just because he's the most famous or whatever, I think, wow, you're the most sexual. He's just not my type. It's just like...
You went on a date with Tommy Lee, right?
No, I went to dinner with Nikki Sixx. I met Tommy Lee. I hung out with Tommy Lee.
Right, but you didn't sleep with Tommy Lee.
No.
But you found him kind of boring. What did
No, boring. No. Tommy Lee's cool. He's very hyper. He likes his techno music. He's very hyper, like a kid. Didn't really appeal to me. I think a lot of women find him really hot. He's not my type. I like to have a really good conversation with the guy as well, to engage some intellectual conversation. I had dinner with Nikki Sixx. I had these ideas of Nikki Sixx as being really wild, the most debauched, rock star you could ever meet. And obviously, I think he's been there, done it, kind of wrote the books. He's in a different part of his life now, so he was more into gardening, taking pictures, doing photography. So he was in a completely different place now than he was in the 80s.
So you're thinking of ripping shit apart and going, nope, it's going crazy, and then all of a sudden this guy's talking about gardening, and that's not the hose you had in mind.
I took a really hot girl to dinner with Nikki Sixx. I mean, she was just like Claudia Schiffer, stunning. And I just don't think he was really into anything. I think he was just so passionate about his gardening.
So you guys didn't wind up even sleeping with him?
No. He was very into his own. He's very he's more spiritual.
Did you at least get the girl?
Afterwards, yeah.
All right, you still have a winner.
No, because me and that girl, actually, we were like, this is kind of boring. So we went back to her place. We ended up having a great time. Just
Did she give you a proper orgasm?
No, she didn't give me an orgasm, but she gave me a good time.
Okay, I love that term, if you couldn't tell, proper orgasm. So now we're talking to Roxanna Shirazi. Her book is The Last Living Slut, Born in Iran, Bred Backstage. And so tell me this, who's the rock star you went out with the longest, and who's the most famous rock star you slept with?
Well, I'm not answering that.
No, you're not? Why?
Because the whole point of the book is that it's about a journey, and it's not about how famous someone is. I never went to see... Because I've met lots of famous rock stars who are not in the book, and politicians. I've been out with very famous politicians.
So you've been with Tony Blair, that's what you're telling me.
Oh, God, please. I don't go out with war criminals, actually.
Oh, I like that. Okay, look at Roxanna busting him up.
But, it was always about who was the wildest, or what my journey, where it took me. So it wasn't about, I'm going to write about who's the most famous, because I could have named some really big names in that, but I didn't. It was about, it didn't make sense to the story. They didn't have a thread into the story. But it just shows about who I fell in love with, the good
Who did you fall in love with?
It was a member of Guns N' Roses. I found him incredibly charismatic, very beautiful, very sexual, very nurturing and very kind initially. And then I realized he must be bipolar or something because he turned like the opposite. You know, so it was quite scary how he turned out to be.
Yeah, he wrote some nasty notes then, didn't he?
Yeah, he was very abusive in his texts. I was actually quite scared of him when I was in LA because, you know, he was sending me really horrific texts, and I took my overdose, which was stupid of me to do. It was really silly because I couldn't cope with all these things that was going on at the time with him. You know, I had an abortion and everything, and I was just like, it was too much for me to cope with. So I think, you know, I did a silly thing, and I think you learn from your experiences, and then you move on, and you sort of grow up, and then, you know.
See, I know you're not a bad girl, among other reasons, because the ones with bad intentions, they would have never had the abortion. They'd have kept that kid and milked the guy.
Well, absolutely, but that's not what life is, you know. I think you've got to do the right thing. You can't be selfish to that unborn child. You have to think it needs a father figure. It needs someone who, I never had a father really, so I wanted a real proper father figure for my child.
Right.
So that wasn't going to be it. He had lots of kids with lots of different women, and I thought his past history just shows he wouldn't be a stable father.
I got you. So Roxanna, I'm curious as to how the story ends. So, you know, you live this crazy life.
Right.
And where are you at now?
Well, I still love rock and roll. I'm kind of split person because I love my academic stuff. I was doing a bit of teaching at university because I did gender and feminism at university. So I love pursuing my teaching at university. So right now, I do so many different things. I still write. I write a lot of poetry. I've done a little bit of teaching. I work with animal rights groups, and I try and do lots of political activity back in England.
So we're done with all the rockers.
No, I still, if I'm like, yeah, I want to go and have a bit of fun, you know, might go on tour with a band, and if they're fun, I'll stay on. If they're not, then I'll be like, you're boring. Bye bye.
you gotta impress Roxanna. You can't come in with the gardening nonsense, okay? So what's a band right now that jumps out at you like, hey, you know what? I wouldn't mind going on tour with them. They look badass.
Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, there you go.
I love them because I think they're probably the only band that I love because they're so political.
Right.
They've got so much energy. They've got so much passion. I'd love to meet them just to talk to them and just see what they're like, you know?
Right.
I'd love to.
And do people get surprised because you're from Iran and you're not exactly what they expect in an Iranian woman?
Completely, because not just that, when I'm in the rock and roll world, I had to dumb myself down. I couldn't say, I've just completed my master's degree. I would lie and say, oh yeah, I'm working in a shop. Or I'm doing this because I knew they would be weirded out by the fact that they'd be like, why are you here? You know, sort of thing. So, and also I wouldn't say I'm Iranian. Sometimes I would to some people that I was very close to. I might say, like, my background is Italian or something. Because I don't know how some rockers would have handled, they would have gone, you're from Iran, like, you know, it would have been weird to them. So I've had a lot of that, you know, during my experiences.
But you know, it's a shame I'm married now because I should have found myself a wild Persian. I've always been in favor of Persian, but it didn't work out for me. All right, but the next best thing is the book. Last Living Slut, Born in Iran, Bred Backstage, and it's got pictures in it, okay? You know what I'm saying? Kind of racy pictures. So, Roxanna, thanks so much for being on with us.
Pleasure.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Cheers.